Hey everybody, you're watching We the Fandom, where we discuss comic books, pop culture, and the fandom experience. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to see more content. How's it going, everybody? Jacob here at We the Fandom, and normally I would see a comic book movie or show the day it comes out and try to have a review out within a couple of days. But I was traveling last weekend, and while I did manage to find the time to see the movie, I didn't have anything that I needed to start working on the video, so this will be out a lot later than I would have liked. Also, this video will be a little bit longer than my normal videos, but I really appreciate those of you who stick around until the end. But I'm going to break down Shang-Chi, and I'm going to do it in chronological order of the in-universe history instead of how it took place in the movie. So a few thousand years ago, a man named Zhu Wenwu discovered 10 mystical rings either in a cave or a tomb. Stories get retold often, so nobody knows for sure, but these artifacts, which gave him both immortality and power, along with the organization he founded known as the 10 Rings, would make him a great conqueror and allow his influence to spread to nearly every corner of the world over the millennia. But in 1996, Wenwu decided to find the village of Ta Lo, which is supposedly full of magic. Ta Lo in the comics is a pocket dimension home to the Chinese gods, similar to how Asgard is the pocket dimension home to the Norse gods, like Thor. So he ventures into a bamboo maze and comes across Ying Li, a woman guarding the entrance to Ta Lo, who decrees that he is unwelcome in their village. Wenwu refuses to back down, leading them to fight, during which they actually fall in love with each other. Shortly after, Ying Li leaves her village forever in order to be with Wenwu, as the other villagers didn't want Wenwu there. They started a life and a family together, with Shang-Chi and his younger sister Zai Ling being born. During this time, Wenwu would take off the 10 Rings and disband the 10 Rings organization, believing that he had finally found a reason to grow old. At one point as a child, Shang-Chi is given a pendant by his mother, who also gives one to his sister Zai Ling, which she says will help guide them home if they're ever lost. Later on, when he's 7, Shang-Chi witnessed his mother's death after she fought off a couple dozen members of the Iron Gang, a group that had been crossed by Wenwu in the past and had returned for revenge. After the death of his wife, Wenwu took up the rings again and trained Shang-Chi to become an assassin, though Zai Ling wasn't allowed to train, instead watching and training herself over the years. At the age of 14, Wenwu sent Shang-Chi on a mission to kill the leader of the Iron Gang as revenge for his mother. While he did go through with it, Shang-Chi also regretted his actions and decided to flee to San Francisco to live a normal life, changing his name to Sean. Now, this is both similar and different to Shang-Chi's origin in the comics, as in the comics, his mother was still alive, and instead of being sent to kill the leader of the Iron Gang, he was sent to kill an enemy of his father's, but didn't go through with it after learning the truth about his father, actually deciding to ally himself with the man to take down his father's empire. Now in present-day MCU, which is 2024, Shang-Chi is working as a valet alongside his best friend Katie, who is an original character for this movie, and while taking a bus to work, they get attacked by members of the 10 Rings, led by Razor Fist, a D-list villain with a sword for an arm who first appeared in Master of Kung Fu issue number 105 in October of 1985. Shang-Chi is able to hold his own against these guys and save the people on the bus, but realizes afterwards that they took his pendant, which is what they were after the entire time. Recalling a postcard supposedly sent by his sister Zai Ling, Sean prepares to depart for Macau. Katie insists on tagging along with him, determined to learn Shang-Chi's past. After landing in Macau, Shang-Chi and Katie locate the address of the postcard, finding the Golden Daggers Club, which seems to be an underground martial arts fighting ring. However, as Shang-Chi had signed a form when he first entered the building, he unknowingly had placed his name in for a fight on the grand stage. Shortly before he goes up, he witnesses Wong from Doctor Strange fighting a comic book accurate Abomination, who last appeared in The Incredible Hulk, though he has been mentioned a few times in the MCU. Shang-Chi's opponent ends up being his sister Zai Ling, who owns the club, and reveals that she left her father and the 10 Rings 6 years after Shang-Chi had disappeared. The 10 Rings infiltrate the club, searching for Zai Ling's pendant. Shang-Chi and Katie are left by themselves when Zai Ling deserts them in an elevator, and they attempt to scale the scaffolding outside to reach another elevator, but the terrorists attack them there. Death Dealer, the man who trained Shang-Chi as a child, appears to snatch Zai Ling's pendant, prompting Shang-Chi to give chase and fight him. Shang-Chi prepares to kill his mentor due to the harsh training he had received as a child. However, he is stopped by Wenwu, who has already captured Zai Ling and Katie. Afterwards, they are taken back to the 10 Rings headquarters, where Wenwu reveals that he had been hearing the voice of his late wife, who calls out to him to save her, believing that she is secretly trapped in her old village. He then uses the pendant stolen from his children and generates a magical map made of water, which illustrates a clear path through the bamboo forest to Ta Lo, which will only be open at a certain time. Wenwu reveals his intention to burn down the village of Ta Lo after rescuing his wife, a plan which his children object to, leading to them being thrown in a cell. In this cell, they end up meeting Trevor Slattery, who, if you don't remember, is the guy who pretended to be the Mandarin during Iron Man 3, and he's befriended this little weird creature named Morris. Morris reveals that there's a way to pass through Talos forest without waiting for the clear path to be revealed, and using an escape route discovered by Xiling, the group is able to get to the garage of the headquarters, steal Razorfist's car, fight off the Ten Rings, and flee from the compound. With the help of Morris, they're able to make it unharmed through the maze, and they're almost turned away by the locals, but Li's sister Ying Nan intervenes, finally meeting her niece and nephew and teaching them the history of the realm. Once a prospering civilization, the emergence of the Dweller in Darkness and its army of Soul Eaters devastated Ta Lo to near destruction. Fortunately, the Great Protector intervened, and the Dweller was sealed off in a cavern where it would begin to lure people to it by imitating the voices of their loved ones. The Dweller in Darkness in the comics is a high-level cosmic entity and one of the Fear Lords, beings who literally live off of fear. The Great Protector, who I thought might be Fin Fang Foom, who is one of the Makluans in whose ship the Mandarin found the rings. For more on that, check out my video on the Mandarin, but instead it just seems to be a regular dragon. Shang-Chi's aunt suspects that Wenwu is being manipulated into coming to the village by the Dweller in Darkness, and she decides to train Shang-Chi in what more or less seems to be airbending, while the villagers reveal that they have created dragon-scale armor and weapons in preparation for Wenwu's arrival. That night, while Shang-Chi tells Katie about his past, he also declares that he's going to kill his father and become the person that his father wanted him to be after all. The following day, Wenwu and the Ten Rings begin their invasion. Shang-Chi confronts his father, but Wenwu overpowers him, punching him into the lake. Wenwu then goes to the barrier and proceeds to punch it, slowly releasing some of the Soul Eaters. Now, Nan and Katie try to convince the Ten Rings that they and the villagers need to work together, but the Ten Rings initially reject them. That is until Death Dealer has a soul removed, leading to Razorfist to ally the Ten Rings with the Guardians of Ta Lo to confront the new threat. In the lake, the Great Protector saves Shang-Chi, who arrives at the barrier to confront his father once more. Wenwu loses control of his rings to Shang-Chi during the fight, but is actually spared, and Shang-Chi declares that his family needs him. However, the Dweller in Darkness emerges from the weakened barrier and devours Wenwu's soul, but not before he's able to save his son, passing his rings onto him. So now you get the final battle between the good dragon and the bad dragon, and the Great Protector nearly has his soul sucked out, but Katie shoots an arrow through the Dweller in Darkness's throat, and Shang-Chi uses the rings to fire what's basically a Kamehameha wave into the Dweller, killing it. This leads to the Ten Rings and the villagers holding a vigil over the fallen warriors, and Katie and Shang-Chi eventually return to New York. The mid-credit scene is definitely not one of the most exciting that I've ever seen, but it was Wong showing up to a restaurant to bring Shang-Chi and Katie to the Sanctum Sanctorum, where they end up in a holographic communication kind of meeting with Carol Danvers and Bruce Banner, who is back in his human form for some reason. And I don't know if it's just me or if it's the CGI, but Bruce Banner and Carol Danvers looked older. Again, it could just be me, but this takes place within a year of Avengers Endgame, so at least Carol Danvers shouldn't look much older than her last appearance. Maybe Bruce Banner's aging has something to do with transforming back into human form. But they basically recognize that the Ten Rings aren't from Earth. Not only that, but the rings are actually sending out a signal to someone. We don't know to who, but Wong tells Shang-Chi and Katie that they are now basically part of this whole crazy Avengers world now. And then the final credit scene shows Xiling becoming the new leader of the Ten Rings, and we also see that she has now added women to the organization. Now for the review portion, and unfortunately there was a lot that I didn't like about this movie. The two good things about the movie were the action scenes, and I mean the fights were absolutely phenomenal. Congrats to the choreography team at Marvel. That and a comic book accurate Abomination. Over the years, Marvel has seemed to care less and less about comic book accurate characters, so this is actually kind of a big deal. Now for the complaints. So remember when I said that Shang-Chi would probably just be the Asian version of Black Panther? It was actually worse than that. It was more like Aquaman being, guy whose mother is from a magical land, has to go back to protect it from another relative, learning his mother's power along the way while also accepting his past. So it's basically that mixed with Dragon Ball Evolution, which if you didn't know was a terrible live-action Dragon Ball movie that came out years ago. And that last part is mostly pertaining to the final fight between Shang-Chi and Wenwu. Wenwu fighting was always awesome to see, but as soon as Shang-Chi gained control over some of the rings, it started looking really retarded. I mean, when it started showing the rings floating around Shang-Chi, all I could think of was Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm guessing that they thought that scene would look better in 3D or something, I don't know. But let's talk more about Shang-Chi and how he doesn't act like Shang-Chi. I'm not saying the actor is bad, I'm saying the writer has never read a Shang-Chi comic. Like they had Simu Liu's character from Kim's Convenience appear in the movie and pretend that he had this tragic past. Also, not to say that I'm a diehard Shang-Chi fan, I'm quite the opposite, but I still want to see comic book accurate characters. In the end, it's actually a good thing that so much crap was going on in this movie. All the side characters got almost as much screen time as Shang-Chi did. That plus all the colorful landscapes, fight scenes, magic battles, and dragons almost makes a comic book fan forget that they made a movie about a C-list hero who has never really been interesting. I mean, hell, they gave Shang-Chi the 10 rings already in his first movie just to make it more believable that a guy who is good at kung fu is relevant in a world with Avengers. Yes, I know, Hawkeye and Black Widow, but those two have a lot of history as Avengers in the comics. And how about that still not the Mandarin guy? I'll admit, Wenwu was easily the most interesting character in the film. Seeing the main villain humanized by having his actions motivated by having lost his wife and wanting to find her again was great, but it was also exactly those characteristics that made him nothing like the comic book version of the Mandarin. Plus, how lame the 10 rings were. In terms of his character, Wenwu is mostly just a crime lord who is really good at kung fu and uses rings that make him better at kung fu. And the writers of this movie had the gall to make fun of the name Mandarin, with the character himself acting like he's too good for it. Let me tell you something, Marvel fans. I would rather have the character named after an orange than Wenwu any day. Oh, Wenwu is really good at kung fu? You know what? The comic book Mandarin's kung fu was so powerful that he almost broke through Iron Man's armor had Iron Man not calculated the exact angle he needed to shift to in order to lessen the power of the blow. That was in his first fight with Iron Man. Plus, he has the 10 rings, which each have their own ability. Not only that, but the guy was a genius. Not Tony Stark level, but pretty high up there. The comic book Mandarin had an interesting backstory, cooler powers, and he had true conviction as a character. Wenwu and his story with Yingli was good, but it would have been better as a separate movie. Instead, it turned the live-action adaptation of the comic book character Shang-Chi into the millennial version of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Also, what was with the two dragons? I mean, come on. You got Fin Fang Foom, the alien in dragon form who is involved in the Mandarin's origin, and the Dweller in Darkness, the Cthulhu-looking guy who once destroyed the entire Marvel universe, leading to the creation of Galactus. And what do? One isn't even present, and the other is just a boring dragon who suddenly stops talking once he's released from the cave. Marvel's becoming really good at lost opportunities. Now, most of the reviews that I've seen from professional outlets all basically say some derivation of the same two things. They love the artistic vibe, and it's a triumph of representation. Yes, they had cool looking environments, although the CGI in certain scenes was a little weird looking to me. As for the representation stuff, if you've watched this channel for a while, then you probably get the idea that representation is not something that I read comic books for or watch movies for. I don't go to a comic book movie for inclusion or diversity. I go to see a hopefully accurate live action depiction of comic book characters and stories. Was this film a triumph of representation? Sure. I don't know. Or care. Was it an accurate portrayal of the already uninteresting source material? No, but they didn't care about fulfilling the latter as long as this movie fulfilled the former. But let me know what you guys thought of Shang-Chi in the comment section below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, hit that notification bell so you never miss a new video. I'll see you all next time. Bye.